Your Momcozy M5 Smart isn't working, feels weak, or your output suddenly drops, here are some practical Momcozy M5 troubleshooting tips that you can try. So let's start with low suction or your pump is feeling weak. Now this is probably one of the most common issues that pumping mums come across with their Momcozy M5 Smart. First, we are going to want to check our seals. Now, with the Momcozy M5, you have this really soft silicone flange. It can be really easy sometimes just to miss a little bit of putting this on nice and secure. That is enough to give us an air leak, which will reduce our pump's suction. Simply, we just run our fingers all the way around at the end of putting this on to make sure that we have a really nice adequate seal around our flange. Now again, this goes for all our internal pump parts. We want to make sure that the diaphragm is on nice and securely. Always recommend pushing down firmly after. And again, with your duckbill valve, make sure this is pushed in nice and firm. You've checked all your seals. They are on correctly. You've assembled your pump and you're happy with it. Next, we're going to check our duckbill valve. Now, this opens and closes during our session with the different suctions. Its job is to push the milk that comes in our flange tunnel and pop it into our collection cup. So it sits at the base here. This gets a lot of milk that comes through it, and with this opening and closing, there are two main things that can happen. Over time, you will find that this starts to open rather than fully close. You're going to need to replace this when that happens. These need to be replaced every 2 or so months anyway, depending on how often you're pumping, just because they do wear. They are very inexpensive to replace, but quite often our low suction is a cause of a worn duckbill valve. The other issue that can happen is because they have the milk flowing through them, while we are pumping, you can actually get quite a bit of residue buildup, especially if these aren't cleaned properly whilst we're cleaning our pump parts. So make sure that you're running a little brush through these. These are getting nice and clean and that you don't have anything building up. Another issue that can cause low suction is actually moisture. So when we clean our pump parts, we need to make sure that they are thoroughly dried before we assemble them for use. So any little bits of moisture, they can actually inhibit the suction and reduce any friction between our pump parts that then lead to a little bit of a air gap, so we don't have that complete airtight seal that we need. The moisture just gets in the way and prevents that from happening. So that can also be another big part of our loss of suction. So always make sure that your pump parts are thoroughly dry before we assemble our pump. Another one for the loss of suction is actually our nipple alignment. So we need to make sure that our nipple is centrally aligned in our flange tunnel. Being off can mean that there can sometimes be an air gap between the flange tunnel and where it sits against our nipple. So making sure that that's centrally aligned and then it can move nice and freely while we are pumping. So it is a little bit hard to visually see where your pump and nipple align whilst you're putting it on. So just lean forward slightly so you can get a better visual of where your nipple is sitting when you're putting your pump on. And here we go. Here's a prime example going back to making sure our seals are on nice and properly. You can see here that there is a little bit of a gap. I have not put this on properly. and that could potentially lead to a loss of suction. Okay, next, if you are having issues with your pump, feeling that it's not emptying you properly, or you have a low output, first thing we are going to want to do is to measure our nipples. Now, this is pretty easy to do. We're going to want to make sure that our nipple has been stimulated, and then we're going to want to place this over our nipple till we get to a point where it slides right over to the base of our nipple. We're not going to want to have it so it goes all the way around so we can see our areola. We want it to simply go nice and smooth down to the base of our nipple. If it is not going all the way through, that is saying that your flange is going to be too small. Once we find a sizing that fits us well, that is going to be the size of the flange that you need to use. So the Momcozy M5 Smart comes with a standard 24 millimeter flange. If you need a larger flange size, you will need to purchase that separately. If you need a smaller flange size, check if you have any flange inserts that came with your pump. If not, you can purchase these separately. These simply sit in your flange tunnel. You choose the diameter that you need, and then that will reduce your flange tunnel size down to the diameter of that flange insert. Now, biggest tip is to measure your flange size or your nipple size regularly throughout your pumping journey. Your nipple size does change throughout your postpartum journey. The further you're into it, generally speaking, the smaller your nipple size will get. So make sure you are regularly measuring that you have the correct flange inserts, because this is generally one of the biggest reasons why you'll see lower milk output. Next is the settings that you are using. Start low. A lot of the time I see people go, oh, the strongest suction level is going to give me the most output. But when it comes to milk output, it really heavily relies on your comfort level as well. So we start on the lower. When we turn on our pump, we are going to want to start on a lower level. We're going to want to start on maybe a level 2 or a 3, and then we can work our way up till we find a suction level that is comfortable for us and gives us a solid output. Don't make the mistake of starting right up at a level 9. This will impact your milk output, and generally in a negative way. Also, how long you're pumping for. Now, this one might surprise you, but your pumping time with a wearable, you're not getting the same suction strength or continued suction that you'll get off an electric pump like a Spectra. So you may find that you need to pump for 20 or even a full 30 minutes with your wearable to get that milk output that you're desiring. So if you're not quite there, you can see your milk flowing. Sometimes it is just you need to pump for longer than what you're expecting. All right, your pump is not turning on. What can you do? 1, check your pump battery. Now, is USB-C charged? Simply slots into place, and then you pop the other end into your power source. If your pump is charging, you will see the battery icon. Turn this on. Battery icon. It will be flashing up the bars as it's recharging. If it's not recharging, try changing out your USB-C cord. Change your wall plug connector, plug it into a different outlet, and see if that helps. It could simply just be that your charging cable isn't working. Check your connection points. So we want to make sure that there's no issues in here, that nothing has been bent that's going to inhibit it from charging. And then make sure that you're checking there's no water exposure on your pump. There's no moisture built up. This can potentially damage your pump if you are having moisture issues. If you've accidentally splashed breast milk on your pump motor, this could be preventing it from recharging. So take a look and see if there's been any water exposure. Now, if your pump suddenly stops working, more often than not, it is simply that your pump shuts down automatically after 30 minutes of runtime. So if you've suddenly been pumping away and your pump stops, don't freak out. Simply try turning your pump back on and it should fix the problem. What happens though if one side suddenly stopped working and the other one's still working? We can try swap out our pump parts. So change out your flange, pop your pump motor onto your other pump parts and see if that helps the problem. It could be as simple as your duckbill valve needs replacing. It could also be that it is your pump motor and you might want to try reset it. Now, to reset your Momcozy M5 Smart pump motor, it is quite simple. There is a little, I don't know how well you can see it here, a little pin hole right up the top of the do not wash it section. We're going to want to get a pin and gently push down onto this area, and that then will reset our Momcozy M5 pump. This is great for fixing small glitches or connectivity issues. Just a simple reset can sometimes fix the pump and get our pump motor working again. Now, you can try this too if it's not connecting to your app. Other options, if you find that your Momcozy M5 Smart isn't connecting to your app anymore. One, make sure you have Bluetooth on your device that you are using. Two, you can try restarting your device. Make sure that it doesn't have any updates needed in the background. You can also try turning your pump on and off and see if that fixes the issue. And then if none of that helps, my recommendation is to uninstall the Momcozy app and then reinstall it. Go through the reconnection process and see if that helps with any connectivity issues. All right, that's a lot so far. Still a couple more. Pain or discomfort while you're pumping. So this isn't technically your pump's not working, but it doesn't feel comfortable. So that still is an issue that we want to try fix. We're going to want to check our flange size. Again, this is one of those big issues that is easily fixed just by getting the correct flange size. We also want to, I mentioned this before, reduce this suction level. Run it down, start low. If your pump is uncomfortable while you're pumping, it can really come down to you've just got your suction level too high for your body. And then we want to check the positioning, making sure that we have that nipple centrally lined, that we've got it nice and firm in a pumping bra and held into place. All right, after all of this, you have checked the seals, you've replaced duckbill valves, there's no moisture, your alignment is nice and central, you have checked your flange sizes, you feel like you've got the right pump sessions, you've got a charged battery, we've got our pump working best that we have. We've gone through all of these troubleshooting issues and we are still finding that it is not working. This is the point where you can reach out to Momcozy, check that your pump is still under warranty and see if they can help you. One thing I will note here, it's important to know that your pumps, Wearables generally only have around a 500-hour pump motor life to them. So take that into consideration too. How much have you been pumping with your Momcozy M5 Smart? If you've been exclusively pumping for 6 months and then your pump is suddenly not working, you may have just come to the end of your pump motor life. So take that into consideration, but still, contact Momcozy, check if your pump's still under warranty, see if they can help in any way if you've gone through all these troubleshooting issues and it still hasn't fixed your pump. All right, I hope this helps. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. If you found this video useful, please give us a thumbs up. It really does help. And if you want more videos like this, hit that subscribe. Cheers.